Mr. Chairman, members, Paul Smith, Rural Counties Association. Ms. Martin said it very eloquently. I'll just add two other points. We were actually in support of 1826 and worked to get that actually signed into law. The only thing I would add is this also makes a 15-year time window, and we believe that's a little long in that process. So again, I think the information is going to be there. It's going to be available to folks, to Cal Recycle. It's where you put it and the process of how you get it out and how it conforms to your ultimate solid waste plan. So unfortunately, we are in opposition to the bill.
Other witnesses in opposition? To the committee. Questions? Mr. Harbour?
Thank you very much. In regards to this, this is definitely the path that we need to get to. I'm concerned, just as the counties are, with their expressions. So as much as we can do to be able to work with the counties as this eventually comes forward to the floor would be hugely appreciated by myself. I hope those talks can continue. But I'll be supporting today.
Mr. Bally?
So I sat on the Board of Supervisors for 16 years, and we have very rural counties that I represent in my district right now, and I'm concerned with putting an unfunded mandate basically on the counties to implement this. I agree. We've had a lot of talk about organics and trying to move that out of the waste stream, and so I'm a little bit concerned on how those counties are going to be affected financially to, be able to provide the service that you're asking for. So I will be opposing your bill today unless you're going to amend it to take into consideration some of those problems that we're faced with out there. And another issue, too, is that the waste streams that we have in some of those counties is not enough for them to actually, there's not enough revenue generated because the waste stream is small and long distance to haul it to the landfills into the MRF. So,
yes. Answer it.
Great. I also would have one other response to that. In addition to, I think you sort of answering yourself a little bit, which was helpful. Locals don't like to have an added element into their CSEs, but they already do their CSEs, and their claim is that it's duplicative of a requirement in AB 1826, but even if it is duplicative, this would make it easier to comply with those requirements. It's more precise. Any other comments from the committee? Do we have a motion?
Yes.
A motion and a second. Secretary, please call the roll.
Assemblymember Williams?
Aye.
Williams, aye. Dolly?
no.
Dolly, no. Garcia? Hadley? No. Hadley, no. Harper?
Aye.
Harper, aye. McCarty?
Aye.
McCarty, aye. Rendon? Stone?
Aye.
Stone, aye. Wood? Wood, aye. It's got 5 votes.
Got 5 votes. Your bill's out. We will take Mr. Allen up next. Mr. Allen, at the request of the author, this bill will be heard at this hearing, but voted on in 2 weeks.
Excellent. Dr. Lancelot, how you doing? Good seeing you again. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm here today to present AB 997. So for the majority of plastics, cost-effective recycling is difficult, if not impossible. The reason is that recycled plastics at the end-user level must be cost-effective relative to new plastics for recycling to be sustainable long-term. The problem, simply stated, is that the plastics manufacturing industry cannot tolerate raw material costs in excess of a few cents premium for any material, including recycled materials, which makes recycling cost prohibitive. Also, most plastic products, whether high-performance durable plastics or commodity disposable plastics, must meet tight performance standards. And to address these high-performance standards, new plastic raw materials have been developed over the past few decades. Unfortunately, with very few exceptions, it's extremely difficult to hit these new high-performance targets with recycled plastics, especially post-consumer plastics, at the required prices to be widely utilized. So, given the difficulties in separating specific plastics for recycling and the inability to achieve economical price points that would successfully drive this enterprise, there is a window for us to take advantage of new and emerging methods to support our recycling and energy conservation efforts. AB 997 would take advantage of this opportunity by restating California's policy goal to provide that not less than 75% of solid waste generated be source reduced, recycled, anaerobically digested, used for electricity generation, or composted, composted, there we go.
Close.
Composted by the year 2020 and annually thereafter. It would also require Cal Recycle to investigate emerging technologies that convert used plastic products into new feedstock and adopt regulations and protocols by January 1st, 2017 that encourage waste to energy and waste to fuel pyrolysis projects that address various grades of plastic products that are in landfills. Furthermore, AB 997 would require Cal Recycle to examine and report to the legislature on possible incentives for businesses and organizations that practice state-of-the-art, cost-effective material separation recovery techniques to locate their recycling centers right here in California. So in summary, we should be encouraging our government agencies to look at employing the innovative products that science and research have developed to improve our state and our recycling programs. With that being said, I'd like to introduce Dr. Charles Lancelot to give you more specific details and help answer any questions that the committee may have today.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Members of the Assembly, first I would say that about half of what I was going to say has already been very eloquently said, and I can really add very little to that. I would say that indeed there are major obstacles to the recycling of plastic products all the way through to reprocessed materials that meet end product manufacturers' tight raw material cost constraints. And the California State Auditor reported that the state's beverage container recycling program alone in each of the last 4 fiscal years operated an annual deficit exceeding $100 million in 3 of the last 4 fiscal years. As Mr. Allen mentioned, at the core of this recycling cost escalator is a prohibitive cost of the complete isolation of target plastics from a host of contaminants and from other plastics. The vast majority of plastics are incompatible with one another and severely compromise each other's properties when reused. Now, I know this only too well. I've spent over 45 years in chemical R&D and manufacturing support, the vast majority of this having been spent in plastics technology. And over many decades of hands-on experience, we've assisted countless organizations in their quests for the right raw materials. Having also spent much time during my career in the development of these raw materials, I can assure you that it typically takes years of development to come up with the highly specific raw materials that will do the job. Now, much emphasis in recent years has been on the use of recycled materials, but as Assemblyman Allen said, it's been proven very, very difficult to do, again, because of the contamination, even from small amounts of residual contaminants in separated plastics. So the result is that well-managed landfills are and will continue for the foreseeable future to be the only disposal alternative for many plastic products. And the same is true for textile wastes, of which 60% are synthetic, and of which the EPA reported in 2011 that 13.1 million tons ended up in landfills. I'd point out that the plastics, the polymers, the materials in textiles are very, very similar, if not identical, to the plastics that are in soda bottles, milk bottles, etc. But in the meantime, even as energy generation from landfill gas is being optimized, several state-of-the-art thermochemical technologies are already available or under commercial development to recover the energy and fuel potential of mixed plastics and mixed textile wastes. And the key is with zero or near zero environmental trade-offs. That's the new aspect here. And new separation and recovery technologies are being made available to, that are available today to maximize the reusable
your
lifespan.
testimony, we have a committee as practice of 3 witnesses, 2 minutes each.
Excuse me?
You've exceeded your time.
That's pretty much done.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. Robin Black on behalf of the Plastics Environmental Council. I'd like to thank the author for bringing this bill forward. And we very much respect the Integrated Waste Management Act. We just also know that there's been a lot of new technologies that have been developed in the last 25 years, and we'd ask the committee to consider those new technologies.
Chair and committee, thank you for giving us the opportunity. This particular bill gives us a chance to look at our legislation on the books and to rethink the concept of waste. I'm a chemical engineer myself, and I'm a champion for a cradle-to-cradle thinking, whereby which there is no waste. The concept of waste is eliminated. So by giving an opportunity to recapture the value in the materials, we are saying that there's not a single thing that needs to go to waste. The idea behind the laws in the past was that the landfill was a place where we just got rid of our sins or got rid of our things we didn't want to deal with, and then we wanted to recycle or compost. But I'd like to encourage us to think about how that landfill is actually a place, it's a slow incubator for allowing bacteria to process. And so bacteria can generate methane gas for energy. So we want to think about those landfills as slow reactors. I'm the CEO of Slow Tech Labs, and our idea is to enable nature to utilize its 3.8 billion years of R&D, so that when we look at it from 3.8 billion years from now, we can say we've done something wise with our materials. So I'd like to encourage us to think along generating clean air, clean water, and our friends at Sierra Club and the friends at Clean Water Action and the Coalition for Clean Air, all of them would like these essential values. So even though we might have conflicting ideas on how to get there, as long as our focus is on trying to maximize materials, we are the Eureka state, and it's not just gold that is valuable. Every single atom and every single material that we process can be an asset in this new circular economy. And so I'd like to encourage us to think how we can leverage the assets we have. And so I thank you very much for your attention and for your consideration. Thank you.
Just ask the witness to state his name for the record.
Thank you, Chair Williams. My name is Sudeep Motupelli Rao. I can provide my spelling offline. My last name is Rao, R-A-O, and my first name is Sudeep, S-U-D-E-E-P. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. Other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition?
Mr. Chair, members, Mark Murray with the Environmental Group Californians Against Waste. I'm going to just limit myself to opposing the bill that is before you in print as opposed to the testimony, because I'm not entirely sure that the two match up. We're opposed to a proposal that would count material that is converted to energy as part of the 75% goal. As this committee is well aware, we do extract gas from landfills and we generate energy from that. And I think whether purposefully or inadvertently, this bill would have the unintended consequences of counting everything that's disposed as meeting the 75% goal in existing law. I'm not sure that's actually the intent of the legislation, but let me say, since the focus seems to be on plastics and plastics recycling, California has really one of the best waste reduction recycling infrastructures in the nation, not just for collection, but also for recycling. And over the last several years, we've actually developed enterprises in California that are successfully recycling the PET soft drink bottles, the HDPE milk jug containers. And there are now manufacturers in California that are converting that waste stream and returning it back to the economic mainstream as pellets for new recycled containers, new recycled soft drink bottles and water bottles and detergent containers. And we've actually been doing that for more than a decade here in California. So we have a very successful closed-loop recycling system for a number of plastic containers, which is not to say that all plastic recycling has been successful in California. There is nothing in existing law that would prohibit anyone from moving forward with a conversion type of technology for that kind of trash plastics that isn't compatible with our recycling system. I would suggest that prior to amending policy on this, though, we should maybe have one of those facilities that might be working in California before we change the statewide policy to encourage those technologies. Nothing prevents them from existing right now. no state law would prohibit them or inhibit them from existing. But before we start changing state policy, let's see if just one of them can cost-effectively operate in the state of California. Urge a no vote.
You have that right. I can take that.
Other witnesses in support?
Kyle Jones, Sierra Club, California, in opposition.
I'm sorry, in opposition. I don't want to mischaracterize the Sierra Club position.
Sylvia Solisha on behalf of the City Board of Supervisors of the City and County of San Francisco in opposition. Thank you.
All right. It is to the committee.
Mr.
Any
Chairman,
question?
I'd like to move the bill.
There is a motion by Mr. Yeah, we are not by request of the author. We are not having a vote today, but it still means because the following hearing will be vote only. Now would be the time for any discussion on the bill.
If I may ask, is the time for a motion at the future meeting, or?
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
But now would be the time for any debate on the bill, because as long as this one is, our next one is going to be even longer. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you why we have given a no reco. Frankly, I have a little bit of unorthodox views on pyrolysis and waste conversion methods myself, and so I am sympathetic with some of the intent. However, I think the committee analysis points out, and Mr. Murray just pointed out, that the definition on this bill is so broad, and one of the witnesses sort of indicated that all waste that goes into a landfill that eventually degrades into something that could be used as a fuel would qualify as recycling. And frankly, it is not as beneficial of a use as what we now categorize as recycling. If 100% methane capture of landfills was taking place, or even technically or economically feasible, then that might be a different reality. But if you look at where the hot spots are for methane emissions in the state, they're all landfills. And that's because, and there are even landfills that do have methane capture. But it's because in a typical landfill, you could have hundreds or thousands of points of exit for the methane that has been incubating over years and years and years. And so it's very difficult, both economically and technically, to capture 100% of the methane from a landfill. It is far superior to that to capture the waste stream before it goes into the landfill. And that is, in my mind, the purpose of our solid waste laws. And so as written, this would be essentially turning our solid waste laws completely around and incentivize more landfilling. If the author wishes to work on a waste conversion bill, this committee is very open to that, but not a bill that would categorize all waste as recycling. Any other questions or comments from the committee?
No.
Mr. Allen, would you like to close?
First, if I could, would you mind if I could address the issue that was brought up?
Sure, but the question has to come from the committee, so I will ask the witnesses to address the questions of waste conversion versus using methane capture. This bill seems to try to do two different things that might be mutually exclusive. Could you explain that?
Actually, it does look at doing a multiplicity of things, but they're not mutually exclusive. It does look at a combination of optimized methane capture from landfills plus fuels and similar energy products captured from state-of-the-art thermochemical processes, which are mentioned and defined in the analysis, plus some of the state-of-the-art processes that are available today to separate reusable plastics from, like, film laminates, plastic aluminum, plastic paper, and so forth. These processes have just been developed in the last year or so. And So what we're talking about, and I understand the point in terms of how you classify it, but I think if there's a possibility to reframe the overall objective in a way which is more compatible with the language, with the categorization that you've defined on recycling versus other means of a cost-effective use of waste plastics, with or without pre-separation, I think that's something that is worth, certainly we want to be looking at.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Then we will take this up for vote only in 2 weeks.
Chair Williams?
Again, the questions have to come from the committee, so I will ask you to address the question on methane capture.
Thank you, Chair Williams and the committee. I'd like to encourage us to allow the technology decisions to be made by the technologists and the market, and because it's hard for a governmental agency and for us, for you as elected representative of the people and policymakers to decide on the technology, because sometimes they become extinct, they become redundant, or sometimes in. One thing that we can agree on is looking at the reality of the things, with 10% of California's waste being plastics, about a third of that being compostable organics, and about a third being construction waste and other inorganics, and about 20% being paper products. Plastics constitute about 10%, and I'm actually right now working to innovate plastics so that we can actually take these materials in the technical metabolism, which is the inorganic, which is the plastics and other things that are not biologically compostable, to actually be as efficient as nature does biology. So in our industrial ecosystem, we can bring these technical materials and keep them in an industrial loop. So I'm trying to encourage our team, our committee, to look at not necessarily just because what the law had said before, but what the intent is and what the reality is. Much of our waste is ending up in the landfill, and unless we incentivize that conversion of that waste into either energy or gas. So I'd like, if there's a way in which, working with Assemblyman Allen, to actually ensure that the technology aspects are a little bit kept up to the market to decide, but to guide and say, we can't afford to have things going to just not being of use. So making materials useful either in recycling or composting or through energy, if that intent can be agreed upon, then I think we can figure out some best ways as technologists and engineers to innovate to us. So that's my request for the committee to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, we will have this for vote only in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You got a minute?
I do.
Mr. Harper?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I'm here today to present Assembly Bill 190 to repeal the plastic bag ban and paper bag fee in its entirety. My belief is that the legislature should not be telling shoppers as well as business owners what bags in order to use when they go grocery shopping. Plastic bag ban will also likely kill several hundred manufacturing jobs within the state of California. And despite the loan in the bill, many existing factories won't be able to switch and start making reusable bags. Repealing the bag ban will protect these jobs and prevent any self-inflicted wounds to our very tenuous economy. My bill will also respect local control. Nearly one-third of California cities have a plastic bag ban in place. However, in my district, my home city of Huntington Beach recently became the first city in California to start the process of a repeal of its own local ban, making it a local choice. Huntington Beach tried to ban specific plastic shopping bags, and it found it had no impact on our beaches. I support the action to keep our beaches and coast clean, but this ban is not the way to do it. It is not right to burden Californians with an unnecessary ban because a few people are irresponsible. We should respect local control and let cities pass their own specific plastic bag policies that work best for them, their residents, and their retailers. For these reasons, I respectfully request an aye vote, and being someone who's worked with this issue for the last 3 years, I'd be happy to answer any questions for clarification.
Mr. Chairman, members, good afternoon. David Wolf with the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. We're in support of the bill. And members, we obviously agree with Mr. Harper on the local control issue. And in fact, a third of communities in this state already have their local initiatives going forward on plastic bag bans. So clearly this is working on that level, and we think it should be allowed to continue in that vein. Also, we're concerned with some of the provisions in SB 270 from last year. The fee is a floor in our view, which means it can go higher, and there's no provisions in the bill regarding how the funds will be spent. And in essence, the money just basically goes to one industry. And so we would be very concerned about that. And also the job loss from the elimination of the plastic bag manufacturers. And I think it's important to note, as I'm sure CMTA will be addressing here shortly, that manufacturing jobs have been lost and need to be able to return at a faster clip than they have for the last 5 years. So for those reasons, would ask for your support.
Mike Rogie with California Manufacturers and Technology Association. We're in support. California has over 11% of the country's manufacturing, but has been garnering only 1.5% of the new investment in manufacturing. We believe that this law, meaning SB 270, sent a hostile signal to the state and national business community that California is a volatile and unstable place for conducting business. The lightweight plastic bag industry in California directly employs almost 2,000 people, and the paper industry also provides hundreds of additional jobs. Indirectly, these industries conservatively provide another 4,000 to 5,000 jobs in the state. SB 270 negatively affected those jobs with the hopes of possibly adding a few hundred jobs in heavy plastic bag manufacturing. The bulk of the cloth bags are produced in Asia. Under SB 270, there is no price cap on the sale of paper bags, and grocers keep all of the proceeds. Paper bags cost the supermarkets 5 to 6 cents each, depending on the size, printing, and handles, or lack thereof. So if you're charging 10 cents for those, that's an automatic profit of 4 to 5 cents. Going from providing plastic bags and paper for free to charging 10 plus cents per bag will net the grocers conservatively hundreds of millions of dollars. While banning plastic bags might reduce plastic bag litter by a minuscule amount, there's no infrastructure in place for recycling the heavier duty plastic bags contemplated as a primary replacement. Cloth bags and heavy plastic bags are very likely to end up in landfills. SB 270 ignored the fact that paper bags are reusable, compostable, recyclable, and restainable. It's hard to find a more environmentally friendly product. CMTA believes that the decision whether or not to ban plastic bags should be made by the local communities. There is a significant difference of opinion between affluent coastal communities and lower income inland California.
A motion by Mr. Dolly. Is there a second?
Can I second my bill?
You can. You can.
I'll go ahead and second it.
Okay.
Okay, CMTA, California needs to educate consumers on the negative impact of littering, not ban products. Thank you.
There's a shuffle at the end of UNC, so we are just going to, Mr. Dolly and myself are going to switch places here in a moment, but we will continue with the hearing. Other witnesses in support?
Mr. Chairman, Brian Lundgren on behalf of the Orange County Board of Supervisors in support.
Witnesses in opposition?
Mr. Chairman, members, Mark Murray with the environmental group Californians Against Waste. Very appreciative of the opportunity to come back to my favorite issue in the whole wide world. As maybe new members of the the committee may not be aware, this committee over the last 5 years has advanced a ban on plastic bags 7 times, and we absolutely appreciate the leadership and thoughtfulness of this committee on this issue. I'm not sure it's necessary to rehash the debate that we've had over the last 5 years when each time this committee has advanced this same exact proposal to ban plastic bags. But I will note that we were very fortunate that the rest of the legislature agreed with you last year with the passage of SB 270. And I would note if the legislature had agreed with you 5 years ago when this committee first passed a ban on plastic bags, we would have eliminated 75 billion single-use plastic bags. These bags, because they're not biodegradable, because of less than 5% of them are actually recycled, they represent all of those bags continue to persist in our environment as pollution. And I would also note that consumers have paid $1.2 billion in higher grocery costs over the last 5 years to pay for the so-called free plastic grocery bags. So again, I just want to take this opportunity to thank this committee for your leadership over the last 5 years on this issue, and it's good to see that the rest of the legislature has followed your lead. Thanks a lot.
Jenna Price on behalf of the California League of Conservation Voters. We are also in opposition to AB 190. AB 190 is a step backwards for a state that has seen the passage of nearly 140 city and county ordinances that have been adopted to phase out single-use plastic bags. As many of you know, these bags often blow down the street, settle in trees, get stuck on fences, and wash into rivers and bays, often ending up in the ocean. To hungry sea life, these bags disguise themselves as tasty jellyfish and contribute to the deaths of more than 1 million birds. 100,000 marine mammals and sea turtles die every year from eating or getting entangled in plastic. And as Mr. Murray has already mentioned, we've worked very hard on this over the course of the last 7 to 8 years. CLCV specifically has worked for 6 years on this, various proposals to ban single-use plastic bags. And in 2004, we saw an unprecedented response from our members who were determined to mark 2014 as the year to ban the bag. The people of California have already spoken out in strong support for this law, and we ask that you oppose the regressive proposal and look forward to the future so that we can be proactive about our plastic bag pollution and someday soon be on par with places like Bangladesh, who actually banned the plastic bag in 2002 due to clogged drainage systems. And just a little point to make, I know that Huntington Beach was the first one to work on repealing their plastic bag ordinance. Laguna Beach, also in the members' district, happened to be the first one to adopt the ordinance in Orange County. Thank you very much.
Kim Shiner with Heal the Bay, also in opposition for previous statements. Thank you.
Jason Schmeltzer on behalf of the California chapters of SWANA in opposition. We think the bill last year had plenty of balance and we're comfortable with it. Thanks.